It's always a question of mixing consistency, mixing different kind of flavors. If you're putting something salty, maybe you want a contrast with something sweet, for example. If you are using maybe an extra cheese, or I will recommend adding a little bit of acidity.
Welcome to Experiences You Should Have, your how to guide for amazing experiences. I'm your host, Gail Manasco, and today we are making pizza. I love pizza. And we live next door to a pizza restaurant, and I never thought to make our own pizza at home because it's right there. However, when the pandemic started, well, actually, the night before we all went in lockdown in March of 2020, we went to a friend's house back when you could go do that thing. And they made homemade pizza and then turned on a movie. And it was their tradition every Friday night to make pizza and have a movie. And I just never thought to make my own homemade pizza. But then the very next day, we started our stay at home order and our lockdown. And I'm like, well, even though the pizza shop is right there, we should start making our own homemade pizza. And we started experimenting with dough. I was able to find yeast. And I learned so much. I'd always been so afraid of yeast. And this was really the first time I started working with it. And it's been such an amazing experience for us. And it's a tradition that we've held on to since March of making homemade pizza on Friday night. Every now and then we veer away from it, but it's a fun thing to have to look forward to. And it's now a new constant in our lives right now. And I was thinking about the podcast, and right now, COVID-19 cases are skyrocketing. We are essentially on another lockdown, but we're staying at home. We're staying at home. We're not traveling right now, which is kind of weird for an adventure and travel podcast here. But I really want to bring out some experiences that you can have at home. And one of those experiences can be making homemade pizza. And I found the guy to talk to, Fabio Arante. And around 10 years ago, he left the corporate world to follow his passion and enter the pizzeria. So he's from Italy, and then in 2014 he moved to London. He still lives there, and he was creating these pizza experiences and bringing families together to make pizza together and have parties and teach how to make homemade pizza. Which coming from a true Italian is really exciting. However, he's had to shift his business model a bit. As we're not coming together right now. So he's got these great tutorials online, excellent videos, and I love his Instagram account. So definitely go find him. He goes by Fabulous Pizza, but his name is in it. So it's Fabio Ulyss Pizza. So his name is in it. So Fabio Ulyss Pizza. Find that on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. You can also check out his website, fabioarante.com. And he is going to come and share his tips and tricks for making homemade pizza. Welcome, Fabio, to Experiences You Should Have podcast.
Thank you, Gail, for having me.
This is so exciting. I love your videos. I love your fervor for life. It's just really nice.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah, so I'd love just to hear a little bit about your background and
Sure.
Yeah.
Of course. We're talking about my pizza making background, right?
Yes, your pizza making
Because
background. What got you here?
I'm telling you, because I kind of a different kind of backgrounds. I did plenty of stuff in my life, but at some point, around 10 years ago, 9, 10 years ago, I became a professional pizza maker. Actually, the whole thing started when I was a kid. The classic Saturday pizza night with my family. It was the gathering moment, the moment where everybody was at the table sharing something delicious, actually, because my mom used to bake it. And for me, there was also the moment prior to the actual eating pizza, because I was around my mom all the time, getting my hands dirty with flour and water, my nose dirty actually also. And yeah, it was also uh, a moment for me to stay close, to experience something together with my mom, to have fun with her, if you want.
Hmm.
And I still remember, like it was like yesterday. I think 40 years has passed from the time, from the very first time. But yeah, I still treasure those memories, because that's where it all started. And fast forward around 9, 10 years ago, I left my corporate job just
Yeah.
to enter a restaurant. The idea was I want to eat pizza every day of my life from now on, every single day. And yeah, that was the plan. That was the plan. So I started learning how to make pizza. Um, I used to. My teacher at the time was the how can I say, the person who cooked for me all the time, because there was this takeaway pizza shop around the corner, and I used to go there twice a week, at least 3, 4 times a week, very often. So we became quickly friend, me and the pizzaiolo, the pizza maker there. And one time I told him, Mario, why don't you teach me making pizza? And I said it once again, and then once again. At some point, it just said, "Listen, Fabio, come into my shop, because I can really use a couple of extra hands. So just get in, starting tomorrow, starting next week, starting whenever you want, and I can teach you making pizza with me, right?" It was kind of a surprise for me, because I didn't really consider learning about real pizza making. I mean, until that time, I made plenty of pizza in my kitchen, in my home kitchen. But something just clicked at that point, and so I said to myself, "Oh wow, you know what? Maybe it's time I really step into a restaurant." And this is what happened. From there, and the rest is history.
So, where was this? Where were you?
Okay, at that time of my life, I used to live in a beautiful town in Italy, because I don't know if you notice my Italian accent. I know my English is perfect, but probably you notice a slight Italian accent. At the
Uh-huh.
time, I lived in Italy, in a city, beautiful town called Bologna. I did university there, and as I said, I started working in the corporate world, and I just stepped outside the office and inside the restaurant. After, let me think about it, a couple of years, I think, experience, I moved to another city in Italy, pretty close to Roma, capital.
Hmm.
And after another 6, 7 months, I think, I moved finally to London. We're talking about 7 years ago, almost 7 years ago. So I kept bouncing from city to city, from country to country.
Wow. I mean, what a history. This is so exciting to have you on a real Italian making homemade pizza. And now you are sharing that love of pizza and helping people learn how
Mhm.
to make their own homemade pizza. Uh,
Exactly.
yeah, which I mean, I think this is great because here many of us are home right now. We're
Hmm.
not going out, and this is something that we can do from home, and it's an excellent experience you should
Exactly,
have.
exactly. And this is actually the reason why, actually, I left the restaurant a while ago because basically my body said, stop it now. I can't stand it
Mhm.
anymore. And so I just decided, I also wanted to do work for myself, to be honest. And
Mhm.
so this is why I started a small business based on teaching people how to bake their own happiness. Basically, I went from home to home, from birthday party to team building experience, etc., etc., and I just made people happy. But suddenly, guess what? The coronavirus struck, and so I had to pivot. Right now, I try and teach it on the cyberspace, if you want. So this is why I have a video course up there on Udemy, very famous platform. And I'm planning to do live experiences because that's where the game comes in. I miss staying with people. I'm Italian. Maybe I'm kind of feeding a cliche here, but
Mhm.
I enjoy staying with people. I like talking with people. My hands talk with people a lot, as you can imagine. And yeah, the plan is to bring my experience, my pizza experience, as I always call them, on the cyberspace, so I can start sharing live with people. That will be the best thing for me.
I love it. Pizza experiences with Fabio, and so your brand is Fabulous Pizza.
Okay, yeah, it's just fabulous pizza, fabulous. You can just say whatever you want. I just wanted to put my name inside the word, and so
Yes.
it's fine. Not because I am
Fabulous.
fabulous, but I don't want to sound arrogant, but my pizza, wow, they are fabulous.
Oh, I love it. I absolutely love it. And I will make sure to link to your social profiles and
Thank
your
you.
YouTube in our show notes. So listeners, please check them out. So, I mean, let's talk about making your own homemade pizza. What ingredients do you need to make pizza?
Let's do it. Let's talk about pizza. Let's go into
Hmm.
the nitty gritty.
Let's.
Yeah, honestly, it's so easy making pizza at home. Most probably, there is a high chance you have everything in your pantry right now. I won't even mention the water from your tap, a little bit of flour, a little bit of salt, maybe the yeast. If you're not used to baking, you should go to the corner shop and buy some yeast. But for ingredients, at least to prepare the dough. Later on, of course, you can use whatever toppings you want. The usual one, the usual suspects are
Hmm.
tomato sauce and mozzarella, or any cheese will work. I don't want to be, orthodox if you want, but you can top your pizza with really whatever you want. Consider pizza as a different shape of bread if you want, and yeah, as long as you have some flour, some salt, some yeast, and anything you like to top it, you're good to go. um,
So let's talk flour. Are we talking double zero flour? Are we talking all purpose bread flour? What kind of flour should people be using?
okay, first I want to ask you something. Before, do we have 4 hours to talk about flowers?
What? I'm sure there's more flour while
Yeah,
you're
no,
out.
of course, that's where the geeky, passionate chef will come in. I will try and keep it nice and short. You mentioned the 00 flour or 00 if you want. I'll tell you something. I feel there is some kind of hype around the 00 flour. It seems like if you don't use 00 flour, you cannot make pizza at all. And I will reveal a it's not a secret, of course, but I will tell you something. 00 is just a name we give in Italy. In Italy, we have a classification, let's say, for the flours that goes like this. From wholemeal flour, we use, of course, the Italian word, which is integrale. So from wholemeal flour, then there is flour number two, then one, then zero, and finally 00. This classification goes from uh, uh, how can I say? It's a classification that includes the refinements of the flour. So while the whole meal, which we call integrale, is not refined, is very little refined, the 00 is just a little bit more refined. That's it. There is no secret in a 00 flour. It's just a different name, different classification we have in Italy. That's it. What's really important, extremely important for a flour, in order to be good for pizza making, is the content in protein. This is less geeky than it sounds, I promise, because every bag of flour in the, there is like a box with the nutritional facts.
Uh-huh.
I promise, every box, every bag of flour will have a box with the content in protein. The higher the content in protein, the better that flour is for pizza making in general. This is a rule of thumb, of course. If you want to go deeper, if you want, I told you we can talk for
Mm-hmm.
hours and hours. But in general, if I need to keep it nice and short, I will say not necessarily you should go nuts and find a 00 flour, checking every corner in your city, every e-commerce shop for a special Italian flour. Just find a good bread flour, which is usually higher in proteins. You will
Mm-hmm.
be good to go with this kind of flour. That's actually my go-to flour here in London, in United Kingdom, where I live. There is no 00 flour. Of course, I like to buy something more professional when I bake at home. But very often, I just make my pizzas with flour I buy at the supermarket. I have a very, very DIY approach when I bake at home, and this is
Mm-hmm.
what I teach actually. So you don't need any professional product, and you don't need any professional equipment as well. I will never ask you to buy I don't know, a specific table, a scraper, a standing mixer, or blah blah blah. Use your hand, use a spoon. Who cares?
Yeah, I watched some of your videos,
Mm-hmm.
and we've been making our own pizza at home,
Cool.
which is exciting, but I think I cheat because I use a
Ah,
dough hook, and
mm-hmm.
I watched your video, and
Mm-hmm.
you used a
A
spoon,
spoon,
you a
yay! Oh, wait.
spoon.
When I say let's use a spoon, I don't want to say avoid using a mixer. You just said you use a hook. That's perfectly
Uh-huh.
fine. My idea is you can actually use a totally DIY approach. You can prepare a very good pizza, and you don't need to buy anything at all, anything at
Love
all.
it.
So well done in using your mixer, I guess, with your
Yeah.
hook. My point is, you don't really need a spoon. You can do it with your. Sorry, you don't need an actual standing mixer. You can use a spoon, a fork, your hands. I like getting my hands dirty, so
Now, what ratio if you're, cooking, pizza for a family of 4 at home, about how much flour, how much salt, how much yeast, and how
yeah.
much water?
But you know what? I like when my life gets easy. So this is why I did a simple Google sheet. Can I say
Mhm.
Google? Is
Yeah,
that's like
sure.
it's not an
Yeah.
endorsement. It's just
No.
a public domain thing. I did a simple Google sheet which I called the dough calculator, where I just input the number of pizzas I want to prepare that night, and the sheet said, "Poof, Fabio, just use this amount of flour, this amount of water, this amount of yeast, this amount of salt, and that's it." So of course I can give you, I can try and be precise with number, but just in case, I, I can just give you all of you the my dough calculator is just a Google Sheet. It's free, of course. I can share. I share it already with anybody. You will find it everywhere on my YouTube channel, on my Instagram. You find it everywhere. But I will recommend using a very simple tool just to be more precise. In general, what I do is considering 100 grams of water per person. Now, I know you guys on the other side of the pond, you don't use grams, but I do. I'm pretty ignorant, so I can try and convert 100 grams of water. It's just easy for me because it's easy to do the proportions, the percentages, and all the rest. 100 grams of flour, sorry, 100 grams of water and under 50 grams of flour. This is the base. You will use
Mhm.
like a teaspoon of salt, half a teaspoon of yeast to make one pizza, only one pizza. So you just make, you do a simple calculation times two,
Mhm.
times three, times four for all these ingredients, but the yeast. I know you asked me something about the yeast.
Mhm. Because you use less yeast than than I use, and then what I see in a lot
Exactly,
of recipes, we use 2 and 1/4 teaspoon of
exactly,
yeast.
exactly, exactly. This is one of the main differences between, let's say, the random pizza maker at home and somebody who went a little bit more in depth studying about pizza making. It's not a geeky thing, I promise. It's pretty easy to understand, but I'm telling you why. To make a good pizza you should reduce a lot the amount of yeast and increase on the other side the amount of rising time. It's pretty. I think it's easy to understand that the more yeast you use, the quicker your dough will rise. And
Correct.
you can also think the other way around. The less yeast I use, the longer the rising time. Is that
Correct.
clear, right?
Yep,
Oh,
very clear.
this is what we want to really achieve, a longer rising time, not just for the sake of the time, but because the longer the rising time, the more wow, this is gonna be hard. Not becoming the pizza geek. I'm gonna wear like
Oh,
a
no, it's
couple.
okay. Geek away. Geek away.
Okay, let's say that during the rising time, some chemistry kicks in, and some fermentation will start. The fermentation will give the extra flavor in your final product, in your pizza. You will smell it in your dough. When your dough is rising, the longer the rising time, the more you start to smell a little bit of like acidic touch, a little bit of alcohol if you want, just a little bit of alcohol. And this is what it's explaining to you, that you are achieving some fermentation, And
Mhm.
if your dough will ferment a little bit, that acidic part will become taste inside your oven. It will
Mhm.
become, how can I say? Let's say the taste of your pizza will become a little bit more complex. You will notice, especially if you bite just the crust without the toppings. You will say to yourself, what the heck is this? It's not just plain flour. And so this is why, if you ask me, the number one suggestion for the everyday pizza maker at home is this one: just use less yeast and use and increase the rising time. This is what will make you step up your pizza game.
Mm, mhm. Now, how long do you let that rise with, using less yeast?
I can give you just some, how can I say, so some, yeah, I can give you some guidelines here, because of course, the fermentation time depends, of course, on the amount of yeast, but it also depends on the temperature you have in your house, etc. So
Mhm.
ideally, the rising time can be easily 24 hours. You know what, let's try and make pizza together right now. Are you
Mm.
okay with it? let's say
Yeah.
let's say tomorrow I want to have lunch with a nice pizza, right? I used to
Yeah.
eat around 1 o'clock. Let's say 1:30, depending. I mean, let's say 1 o'clock. So
Yeah.
tomorrow, no, I'm gonna eat my pizza around 1 o'clock. Today in the afternoon, let's say 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I will prepare my dough. I will knead my dough. So let's say 2 o'clock, just for the sake of the calculation, is going to be easier. At 2 o'clock,
Yeah.
I will prepare my dough. It takes me 15, 20 minutes, let's say, and then I will leave you. I will let it rest on my table for around 1 hour. After this hour, I will move my dough inside the fridge,
Mm,
so
mhm.
I will try and slow down a little bit the fermentation we mentioned earlier. Tomorrow in the morning, first thing in the morning, let's say 8:30, 9, it depends on your
Mhm.
alarm call in the morning. First
Right.
thing you in the morning, you will take your dough from the fridge to room temperature, so it starts to increase its own temperature. What we
Right.
want to do is stretch our pizza only after the dough reached room temperature again.
Okay.
Overall, starting together around 2 o'clock until tomorrow at 1 o'clock, we achieved 23 hours fermentation, right?
Mhm.
So this is the little trick that will give you the extra flavor in your pizza.
Mhm.
However, I have a nice video on my YouTube channel where I explain in a little bit more detail my whole workflow. Of course, I tried to explain it here in just 30 seconds. It's also a little bit harder when I cannot show stuff.
Right.
So yeah, I will recommend having a look at that video in order to see a little bit more in depth my workflow, and probably it's going to be easier to grab notes, for example, to
Yes,
take notes.
absolutely. So so after you've let your dough rest and you stretch it out,
Hmm.
we gotta talk sauce here.
Let's toast
What do you use
sauce.
for let's do sauce.
Let's
What?
do let's do sauce, but I'm afraid I'm gonna disappoint you here, Gail.
Oh
I will so
no.
disappoint you.
What
Yeah,
do you
because I'm gonna tell you my own sauce, right?
Okay, yeah.
Okay. Let's open a can of peeled tomatoes, right?
Okay.
Let's squash them roughly, maybe with our hands, right? So we are
Mm.
more in the game.
Right?
Let's add a pinch of salt, and that's it. Nothing more.
What? Wait, what? No, wait, hold on. What about our Italian herbs?
I
What about,
told
you hear about a pinch of sugar?
I
Uh, s-
told you. I told you I will
oh,
disappoint you. I told you I will disappoint you. I told you I will disappoint you. But anyway, now that I did my little show, if you want, let me tell you something different. Of course, this is just the way I make my tomato sauce for my pizza, just because I am bloody Italian. And this is because it's my tradition. By no mean I want to say this is the only way you should prepare pizza sauce. Of course, this is also um, easier on a professional level, because it's easier just to open a lot of cans of peeled tomato, to add salt, maybe some basil if you want. I know of
Mhm.
many colleagues who add basil, of course, and it's pretty awesome with tomato sauce. Tomato sauce and basil are like twin brothers, so they are perfect together.
Yeah.
It's not necessary, let's say. If you want, you can add basil after you bake it. But this is just to say, let's strip down to the bone the tomato sauce we use for pizza with just some peeled tomato and some salt. However, depending on the different styles, because you can teach me probably the styles of pizza making. On that side of the pond, you invented some amazing kind of pizzas, like the Detroit style, for example. There is the New York style, which is pretty, is more similar to the typical Neapolitan slash Italian kind of pizza. But you have countless styles of pizza, and there
We
are
do.
a few of them which requires a different kind of tomato sauce, which will be cooked with a little bit of garlic, possibly, to my knowledge, a little bit of herbs. But I cannot really, let's say, endorse this this kind of sauces, because they are not my tradition. Again,
Yeah, that's
I
fine.
love them all. I love them all. But if you ask me, I will tell you there is no secret sauce. Excuse the pun. Pun not intended. There is no secret sauce in the tomato sauce. um,
Uh-huh.
that said, you
Okay.
can just do
Okay.
it wherever you want, really.
Okay, so we have the secret sauce,
Yeah.
and now now for the topping. Well, the cheese and toppings. Uh, I know this must change by the day for you, but today, if you were to make a pizza, what are you topping it with?
Listen, just on top of my head, if you ask me what's your favorite pizza, I will always say it's pizza margherita, tomato sauce and mozzarella. That's it.
Mm.
Probably just because there is some kind of connection with the Saturday pizza night I had with my family 40 years ago.
Mhm.
That was the only kind of pizza we had. That said, yeah, I got plenty of. I could suggest you plenty of different let's say pairings with the toppings. This is actually what I do several times a week on my Instagram feed. I share plenty of inspiration for pizza toppings. So one of my favorite I did recently. It's a very no, maybe it's not simple. Let me biting my tongue here. I mean, it's simple if we talk about the toppings, because they are so easy to find. Maybe there is a little bit of something. Something you should do in between. But without further ado, let me say about this fantastic pizza. I'm talking about a pizza made with normal tomato sauce and mozzarella, with a little bit of prosciutto,
Ooh,
with a little
yes.
bit of whipped ricotta. I know out there you have ricotta and you use it quite often. But
Uh-huh.
if you whip ricotta with a simple mixer, we incorporate so much air inside the ricotta, and it will become
Oh.
so light and foamy. I will say it's beautiful. Do it tomorrow, please. You can thank me later.
Okay, I
And
will.
the
Promise.
third the third ingredient will be some crushed pistachios. Can I say it in Italian? Pistachio.
Pistachio?
Yeah, pistachios, crushed pistachios, just to give a little bit of crunch. And of course, the saltiness of the pistachio will match beautifully with the whipped ricotta. It's
Mm.
always a question of mixing consistency, mixing different kind of flavors. If you're putting something, I don't know, something a little bit salty, maybe you want a contrast with something sweet, for example. If you are using maybe an extra cheese or an ingredient which is very a little bit greasy, let's say, I will recommend adding a little bit of acidity inside um, your meal in general, not just pizza. For
Yeah.
example, I did recently a purple pizza with some purple cabbage, purple slash red cabbage, some sausage, so it became a little bit very, very rich flavor wise. And
Nice.
I also wanted to add some cranberries because since the sausage was so rich together with the cabbage, I want to give something to refresh your mouth. If you check it on my Instagram, you will be amazed because it's purple. It's purple. I cannot describe it differently. It's purple. It's really purple. Yeah, just I got a little bit carried away talking about the toppings. I can also talk about toppings all the time. I'm kind
Oh.
of creative, kind of a.
I l I love a good topping, and so, I make margarita pizza, but I kinda change it, and so I hope this doesn't make you cringe.
No, it
Uh,
doesn't. I promise.
okay, okay. I put, fresh mozzarella and tomatoes
Hmm.
and bake in a very hot oven,
Hmm.
and then I come out and I, put, like, a chiffonade basil on top or basil,
Hmm.
and then I drizzle, balsamic vinegar on top.
Oh, that's the best. Love it. Love it. That's
Ah!
spot on. Spot on. Spot on. Really.
Uh,
While you
and then,
were, yeah,
oh,
go
and
on.
then last thing is some, pinch of Maldon sea salt to bring out the
Oh,
saltiness.
brilliant, brilliant,
Yeah,
brilliant.
yeah.
Yeah, it's gonna be, yeah, nice, 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 and yeah, tasty. A lot of bold sea salt. You can also use it for. Do you know what focaccia is?
Oh, yes, I love
Exactly.
focaccia.
It's the best if you add bold sea salt on top of a focaccia, maybe with a little bit of
Yes.
rosemary. Nice and easy, but so refreshing in your mouth. And
Mhm.
Gail, while you were describing me your recipe, your toppings, I thought about a couple of things. First, you said about the mozzarella, the fresh mozzarella. I
Mm.
have a quick tip about the mozzarella because a mozzarella can be quite moist,
Okay.
and maybe a little bit of that moisture can remain on top of your pizza after you bake it. Probably it happened to you. It depends, of course,
Uh-huh.
on the brand, of the kind of mozzarella you bought. But in case you buy a very fresh mozzarella, which is very moist, so I would cut the mozzarella a few hours prior and leave it drain in a colander, in a sieve, whatever you have.
Mm.
So it will
Mhm.
release the excess of water, and that water will not go on top of your pizza. It's a little trick that can also improve even the final aspect, the final aesthetic side of your pizza if you want.
That is a great trick. Now, a big question for you is
Yep.
that many times I've gone to a pizza restaurant and they're cooking in a wood fired oven that can get 800, 900 degrees.
I
My
know.
oven I can get to 500 degrees at home.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so and I know you need to cook it in a very hot oven.
Mm-hmm.
And so I preheat my pan in the oven, but are there any tips and tricks for making your oven hot, or what type of equipment to use under your pizza to get it
Mhm.
hotter at home?
Okay. Good point. Very good point. You said your oven reaches around 500 degrees, right?
Fahrenheit.
Okay. Yeah, Fahrenheit. I started to learn the difference between Fahrenheit and Celsius and started to do the conversion because I deal with friends from overseas very often. So I started to get used to the differences. In fact, I can tell you my oven in my kitchen, right here, it
Uh-huh.
reaches 520, 25 degrees, which is not that much compared to yours. And
Right.
still, you probably noticed my pizzas in on my Instagram feed. And they are good. I don't want to sound, like
Yeah, no,
self
they're
marketing.
beautiful.
Oh, look, Fabio is so good. He can make good pizzas. But I mean, yes, they're good. Yes, there is a trick. I guess your oven is an electric oven, right?
I think it's a gas oven.
Oh, gas oven. It's still okay. It's still okay. It's even better to a certain extent because electric ovens, they have a construction limit. If you want, you need to preheat him for longer time compared to gas oven because
Right.
gas oven are more they stabilize easily compared to the electricity to the electric oven because the electricity has its own cycles. I'm geeking
Mhm.
out once again,
No,
but
it's
in
fine.
general, you really need to preheat your oven for as long as you can. Usually, there is a little light on the front panel of your oven, which tells you when the oven has reached its temperature.
Mhm.
I'm not sure if you have it, but
I
anyway, this,
do.
this is pretty common. I would recommend, even when the little light goes off, just let your oven heat again for slightly longer. I mean, it's going to be better, so the temperature will rise even one extra degree. You can make good use of that extra degree. The idea would be to put your pizza inside the oven when the oven is at the top of its temperature. So you
Mhm.
will give a big boost to your pizza, and you will achieve the effect, a little bit crunchy outside, but still soft inside. The higher the temperature, the better. Crank it up, crank it up as high as you can. And the other idea would be, do you have the broiler in your oven?
I do have a broiler.
Ha ha ha, good news for you.
Uh-huh.
You should cook your pizza closer to your upper broiler.
Ah.
So she will receive the heat from the broiler as well. And you will be able to achieve a better coloration of the crust.
Now, what kind of pan should I put my pizza on?
Are you thinking about starting baking your pizza in a pan, I mean, like on the stove, like on a fire, and then on the oven, or straight away into the oven using
Just
a
straight
pan?
away into the oven.
Listen, the good pans, they are pretty expensive. They are pretty
Right.
expensive. Uh, I could also talk about brands here, but
Yeah.
the very famous one are the Lloyd's pen.
The
However, as I mentioned when we first started our conversation, I am a big fan of the DIY approach. So you could easily try and make your pizza without spending so much money for a like a amazing pan.
uh-huh.
Use the best you could afford, and try and use the pan you already have in your kitchen.
Mhm.
I will dare say, you can also use I guess You could have a dripping pan in your oven. Usually they
Uh-huh.
come together with your oven. You can also
Right.
use your dripping pan.
Oh.
Hmm. Yep, yep,
Hey,
yep.
getting smart.
Oh yes, totally. And do you want to know something even smarter?
Tell me.
Haha, ready to go. If you have that dripping pan, leave it inside your oven while you preheat, because that dripping pan will become super hot, will become scorching, and it will give the first boost of heat to your pizza when you stick it inside the oven.
Ah, yes.
Hmm.
Yes. Ah, that's very smart. Very smart.
Yeah, I'm talking about all those little tips and tricks. I'm just trying to bring my the experience I had in years and years at the restaurant. I'm trying to bring it inside my kitchen. And once you know the concepts, the basic concepts, you just try to translate them in kitchen language, if you know what I mean.
Yes.
If you know what I mean,
Yes.
because
No, it's
in our
fantastic.
kitchen we have no wood fired oven. We don't have anything professional. Fair enough, but this doesn't mean we cannot afford to do a darn good pizza.
Right. Absolutely. And I know that we're coming on the end of our time right now, and I
Hmm.
just want to encourage my listeners to go check out the YouTube videos. I mean, I even learned a great tip today where I always used a rolling pin to roll out my pizza, and
Oh
you give some. I
no!
know, and you gave some great tips of how to stretch out your pizza without a rolling pin.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah. There is a neat trick. I will struggle probably how can I say in describing this, but if you have any like a salad bowl, stuff like this, you can stretch your pizza using the bottom of your salad bowl. Put your salad bowl upside down,
yeah.
put your doubles on top of the salad bowl, and just pull the edges of your pizza. The coincidence is I have a short video even for this, so it's easier for me to say, "Come on, Gail, go and check out my video." It's so
Yeah.
it's so easy. It's so it takes longer to try and describe it rather than to actually do
Right.
actually stretch a perfectly round pizza.
Ah, well, perfect. I love all of these tips, and there are more of these tips on your YouTube channel. I will link to it. I will embed a lot of the videos in the show notes.
Great.
So listeners, definitely check it out. Fabio, truly appreciate you coming on and sharing the pizza experience with us.
And I truly appreciate you having me, and it was an honor for me being part of your podcast.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much for listening to Experiences You Should Have podcast. If you haven't subscribed to the podcast, please subscribe. And if you make your own homemade pizza at home, I want to see it. Tag it with the hashtag EYSH. I'm always following that hashtag. Share your pizzas, and this will be an exciting experience. Get out your hands, get out your bowl, get your yeast, your salt, your water, your high protein bread flour or whatever flour you use, and let's get busy in the kitchen right now. And I hope everyone out there is staying safe and healthy, and look forward to traveling one day. So until our next adventure, let me know what you're doing at home.